Yeah, good. Can we get started? Yeah, I think we can. Okay, so after a few mishaps, we can finally begin. Okay, now we have a number of different subjects that we're going to tackle today. And so, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get to that professional game that you wanted to look at, but we can always look at that later on. First thing is I wanted to show you the Joseki from the bogin. It's just, and I wanted to show, it's not going to be super deep or anything, but just to show you some different ways to face it, and also just to demonstrate that it's not anything like a forced win or an advantage for the bogin side. So I'm just going to show it's not even the really best moves for bogeying. It's mostly if he, kind of he's hell bent on attacking, and then you need to know how to respond to it. So that's what we're going to do first. Okay, so we're looking at this from the white side. All right. So he's doing his normal thing. He's gonna play 2-5 silver next, or 4-5 silver, probably 2-5 silver. And then there's different ways of playing. I'm just gonna show you a few, and in all cases, white is okay. So that I'm mainly trying to show you that you don't have anything to worry about if you play calmly. Okay, so the first one we're going to look at is this 4-2 king. So it's just a normal developing move. Okay, silver comes up here, and you move this bishop up here. So later on, the silver can move to 2-2, and then just you're familiar with that pattern. There's going to be no way for him to break through. So because let's see, so he's going to place probably this, and then now you can just push the pawn here, and you notice that he's kind of spinning his wheels here. There's no way to continue going forward with the bogeying. If he exchanges like this, you simply take with the knight and you attack the silver. So the silver is going to have to retreat. Okay, and if he drops, well, if he retreats the silver and maybe goes to 2-7 next, you notice he's kind of lost some time. Moreover, what you can do is slide the rook across like this, and this is totally okay for your side. It's probably even a little better for your side. You notice that he wasted time with the silver on the edge. So, and one thing to take into this structurally is look at this gold on 6-1 and gold on 7-2. It's like a Mino shape, except the king isn't in there. A lot of times the shape is played in side pawn and Aigakari openings. And when you see this, it's usually okay for this side to exchange rooks. So that's something that you should keep in mind. Okay. And you kind of wanted to study Hinari Bisha anyway, so you're combining the ideas. Okay. So that's okay. And if he tries this 2-4 pawn, can take here. silver takes, and then now rook takes, and then promotes. So he traded a silver for a lance, but then, and he managed to promote the bishop, but that isn't the end of the story. So he dropped the rook here, threatening to promote and take the knight. And if he defends it with this gold like here, hopefully you're not looking at the move list, but what move do you play next? Unfortunately, I don't think I can hide the... Okay, maybe like that, but you might have already seen the move. What do you think white should play now? Okay, good. Bishop 3-3. Yeah, that is a possibility. What's going to happen is there's going to be this exchange. Maybe he can drop the bishop here. Not, and then maybe you can drop the pawn here. So, yeah, I guess that would be playable. Let's see. Let's go back. So there would be that. Wait, takes. What he's probably going to do is drop the pawn here. And then he defends against the promotion. And if you drop a pawn here, maybe he might counterattack like this. So it looks like white lost his chance. So try to find a different move. Okay. Don't only think of the rook, but also think of your bishop as well. That should help you find the move. I wonder if I can turn the sound off. Turn off the sound. Ah, there. Okay. Yes. This pawn drop here, yeah, that's definitely a consideration. It looks totally natural. So, but a really good move is this pawn here. So you not only threaten to take on 5-7 and promote the bishop, but if let's say at some point this pawn disappears, then this like that, then you drop the pawn here. You can use it now that the pawn is no longer on 3-6. So this totally screws him up. And no way to prevent total disaster now. Okay, let's go back. So in this case, yeah, there's that. So that's 4-2 king. Okay, the next one we're going to look at is 7-4 pawn. So this is also a consideration. And usually what white is going to do next is either move the knight up or move the silver to 7-3 next. and he kind of gets his silver going with silver 6-4. But right now he has to also keep an eye on black's bogin. So let's say he does that, threatening both 2-4 pawn and taking the pawn on 3-4. So what's the next move? Oh, let me cover this. Yes. So you open the sideways action of the rook. That's one of the advantages of playing floating rook. See, the rook not only works vertically but also horizontally. Okay, and so now let's see, if he does something like 2-4 pawn, let's say he just keeps going forward, you take, and then now what's the next move? You know, I really wish I could cover this move list. I have to figure out how to do this thing on OBS and just obscure it. Maybe I can move the move this guy around. No, no. Okay, I'll just figure it out next time. Sorry. Okay. Okay. So, what's black's threat? Remember, we're practicing looking at threats, right? This one's kind of obvious. It can't get any more obvious than this. Oh, we're looking at this from white side, right? So black is the one playing the bogey. Actually, he's threatening to promote the silver on 2-3. Either promote or non-promote, but he's threatening that. He wants to exchange off the silver. 2-3 pawn would be heavy. Let me just waste the move. Pretend this is like a pass move, okay? Just so I can show you what happened. Okay, add this to your vocab list. A heavy move. Have you heard that term before? Heavy? It's an extremely important concept to get. Yeah. Yeah, a heavy move is a move that's slow. So light moves are very fast and they're tactical. Heavy moves are slow. So you know rooks want to be on open files, right? Because of mobility. When you drop the pawn on 2-3, what happens to the rook? You notice that it no longer puts as much pressure on 2-9. Yeah, it's almost it isn't a pleasant association, but the rook's kind of constipated on the second file. Yes, it's very slow. He doesn't want the pawn on 2-3. Okay. He wants to keep this thing clear for the rook. So by dropping a pawn here, he ends up blocking his rook. Yeah, I don't know if you'd say deactivate, but it makes the play on the second file, closes it off. I mean, it's slow. Well, yeah, it kind of blocks the rook. It blocks the rook. So, but we'll see many examples of heavy moves. So right now he wants to promote the silver here. That way he can activate the rook. See, like this. So that isn't. This wouldn't be possible with the pawn on 2-3. So the threat is promotion or non-promotion on 2-3. Okay. So the next move should make sense. You notice that the head of the bishop is a target. Okay, my instinct tells me the move is 3-5 pawn, but I don't see how that helps. Yeah, I guess he could take this way and then dangle the pawn here next, but then wait. Or he could just promote like this. So, something like this. Manage to trade off his silver. Another thing he could do is non-promotion. If the bishop comes up here, then see, you take this and promote. And you notice next, the rook can take the knight, and also the bishop's being attacked. Compare this to the position where there's a pawn on 2-3, and you can see a huge difference. See, the rook is free to promote here. So this position is not heavy. The 2-3 pawn position is very heavy. Okay. So probably, maybe he'll do this, and then you can drop the pawn here and then promote. You don't want to drop the pawn here because you can run. So you can dangle the pawn instead. Just hold it back a square so it has room to promote next. So this, whoops, maybe like this. Another thing he could do if he doesn't want to sack the silver is just this. But then we end up in a similar position like that. So if you really want to promote the rook, I guess another way is like this, and then move the silver to 3-4 next. Wait, no. Sorry, we end up in the same position. Give me a sec. Bishop here. I don't know, maybe you can do like this. Well, he's going to gain material. I think another thing he can do is here. And this looks kind of interesting. Then he pulls his back. Okay, we're kind of going off topic, but oh wait, no, he just promotes here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that looks bad. Okay. Oops, sorry. Okay, so instead of 3-5 pawn, yeah, so the head of the bishop right now is the target. So the correct move here is to move the bishop out of the way so it's no longer a target. So we move it to 4-4. And this is a move that's well worth remembering because this kind of theme comes up a lot in Aigakari and side pawn games. Moving a bishop to 4-4 or 6-6. Okay, so one thing it does is you notice it clears the 2-2 square for the silver. The second thing it does is it clears a way for the knight on 3-3. You notice if the position were a little different, a knight on 3-3 would end up blocking. Aside from the immediate 2-3 pawn, it would end up blocking the bishop's diagonal. So that's why you move the bishop out of the way, like this. And the final reason why a move like this is good is that you notice you can start counterattacking against the opponent's rook. So moves like 2-7 pawn and 2-6 pawn come into mind. And counterattacking against the rook is a very important countermeasure when facing the bogin. So we can look to see what happens here. 7-6 pawn takes, and then now takes. Okay, and if he just continues forward normally by advancing the silver, you can promote here. It looks kind of scary because of this, but what should White has a really good response to this. Can you find that? Remember, you get play by counterattacking the opponent's rook. You actually have a killing threat here. Uh, 3-9 bishop. He's just going to take it though. He's going to take. Yeah. Okay, I'll show the move, and here. This is a very, very strong move. Let's say if the rook runs, keeps on the rank like this, you notice that he's no longer threatening on the second file, so you can just grab the silver like that. Okay. And you notice that this rook is out of play. So if he takes it, what's the next move? You notice that this rook on 2-7 now, it's really badly placed. See, it no longer defends against the threats along the rank. So this move is killing. Okay, so it forks the rook and the gold. Okay, and this is Sumero. So if he promotes like this, and okay, and then mate. Okay, and instead of that, if he grabs here, you recapture, and this is a double threat. Threatens to take the rook, and he also threatens mate on 5-8 with the gold. So this is completely winning for white. Okay. So remember this theme of counterattacking against the opponent's rook, when you're as countermeasures in the bogin. Now, if you're only thinking of the opponent promoting, let's say you're in that situation, if you're only thinking of the opponent's threats, you're not going to see moves like this. So it's very important not to have a very positive mindset when you're facing this kind of situation. Don't only look for the opponent's side, but look for your side as well, and then you'll oftentimes find measures like this that work. Okay. So instead of 2-3 silver, if he drops the bishop here and just promote, and then you have this 2-7 pawn again. If the rook takes, then you have the 3-8 bishop again. So it's very painful, but it means he can't take the pawn. So let's say he does something like 1-8 rook. You notice this time the silver on the bogin silver is kind of stranded. So now white can force an exchange like this, and then here. So he's gonna, it's a temporary sack. So he's gonna get the rook again. Whose king is better defended? You notice there's white's katachi, his shape is very good. So his king is much better defended than black's. See, he's far away from his gold and silver. So now if he takes here, then you just take like here. Okay, and he tries to immediately counterattack, threatening a 3-2 horse, since the silver will be pinned. He also threatens 3-1 horse. So you move out of the way, and then if he promotes here, then you just run again, and then it should be okay. Let's say he does something like this, and white's king isn't in threat mate, so that means he can attack. Maybe a move like just promoting like this, that would be good. I guess another move would make sense is maybe like this. You see, this is attack and defend. Well, you defend because you're harassing his rook, and you also threaten to promote the bishop here. Actually, wait. No, this is actually a threat mate. Sorry. Let's say he moves the rook away and drop here. And then he's going to get mated here. See, like that. Or here, and then you can promote like that. Okay. So yeah, this 1-4 bishop looks like it wins immediately. If he throws in a check like this, okay, and you don't take it, but you just run away like that, and his king's completely safe. Okay, so let's go back. Yeah, I'll pick that up. Okay, and instead of 1 to rook promote, sorry, this is off topic, but why defend against a lance with 8-4 pawn instead of 8-3 pawn? Okay, yeah, that's a good question. Okay, if he takes this next, then you can drop here. And if he doesn't take it, you notice that around white's king there's more space. So that's why. I would say it probably isn't. Well, with here, maybe he does something like that. And then you probably have to defend like wait, let's see. Oh wait, no, he can just do this and then win the knight. So yeah, 8-3 pawn's probably okay too. A lot of times you do stuff like this. That way the king has more space. So ultimately, it might not matter, but it's one of those finesses. It's like a tessergy. Okay. So instead of promoting here, if he takes this silver instead, take, and you drop the rook here. So here, promote. Yeah, and this is winning for white. If he drops a gold here instead, and this check, and then there's going to be a mate like that. Okay. Okay. So I know that there's kind of a lot to look at, but the main thing, if anything, to get from this is make sure that you're looking for your own threats, and remember, against the bogin, it's not just one. It's not just all one way for the attacking side. He has to worry about being counterattacked himself with moves like this. Okay. And let me show you one more. Okay. The 6-4 pawn. We'll just look at this really quickly. Another way to face a bogin is just to exchange the bishops like this. And then you notice that you have this structure with the 2 silver and 3-2 gold, and it's very difficult. Well, it's impossible for him to break through after that. So this is a really simple way of playing. If he does this, then you should probably just move the silver up. Something like this could happen, and this is completely even. Just keep in mind, if the gold takes, this can happen. Okay, so this is take with the silver, and then this is about even. Notice that he can't break through on the second file. Okay. All right, we should probably move on to other things. Hopefully that kind of cleared things up. If you have questions about this later on, we can always revisit this, or even after the lecture we can talk a bit. But let's look at your game against energy drink. Is OBS showing the board? No. Energy drink. Okay. All right. Oh, we'll flip the board so we can see it from your side. Yeah, and don't worry, I'll send you the KIF file with the analysis, so you won't have to retype everything again. And I'll probably add in some more notes. Okay. Okay, the first question I want to ask you is the gold on 3-3 good or bad shape? Yes. Bad shape. So typically in this opening there's there's this rook move like this. And do you know the name of this opening? It's kind of infamous. Yes, it's a form of opposing rook. This variation is called Sakata Mukai Bisha. It's named after the creator was Sakata Sankichi, who was um, one of the strongest players from the Kansai area, and this was during the time that they were going to crown the first tournament or match maging. Previous to that, they would appoint the maging by uh, they wouldn't play matches, but they would play games, and then they'd kind of come to a consensus and decide who was maging. So yeah, he was an important historical figure, and I'll probably talk about him more later on. But this variation was created by him. He's a very inventive player, and yeah, a very controversial figure. But that's for another time. So that's the usual move. And if you told me that players nowadays, I mean, professional players would do this in today's age, I would say if you had told me that, let's say like 10 years ago, I wouldn't have even thought it possible. But nowadays, you occasionally see professionals doing this, which is a really big surprise. But just something to keep in mind. Yeah, but he does that instead. Okay. Yeah, we'll go through this really quickly. Okay, you do a bogin, perfectly okay. Okay, yeah, the first thing that concerns me is this knight move here. You notice that after you played 7-4 pawn, a natural follow-up is 7-5 pawn. But after you move excuse me, I'm looking at it from black side this time. You want to push this pawn on the third file. But after you move this knight up, you notice that it's going to become much more difficult to do. Let's pass a move just to see what happens. Okay. Well, you threaten. Well, actually, let me improve this a little bit. Okay. Like this. Kind of worrying when the knight is up. So whenever you develop your knight, you have to be very careful because you notice with the silver, it can always move back to 3-7. So it retains a lot of flexibility. Whereas if you move a knight up, the knight can't move back. So you're kind of committed to certain plans. So that's why using a knight a lot of times is much more difficult than learning to use a silver. Does that make sense? Your plans with knight development has to be a lot more well thought out, because once you start going forward, you can't go back. Whereas with the silver, you can kind of you know, if you change your mind, you can kind of pull the silver back. So here, maybe you could consider doing like this. If, I don't know, if he takes here, then you threaten to drop the pawn on 3-4. So here, and then you can move the silver here. Okay, so something like that. Okay. Okay. The move he played was this pawn here. And you drop the silver here. Okay. Well, let's just look what happened. And then bishop takes king. Okay. Okay, let's go back. Okay, at this point, you drop the bishop here. What happens if he takes it though? And you take, and he drops a pawn here. Okay, and then you move the silver, and then he drops like this. Yeah, kind of worrying, huh? I guess you can drop like this. Takes, and then bishop drop here. Is that any good? Maybe like that. Let's see. I guess another idea is to drop the silver here. If gold takes, then bishop here. So probably it's down, and then maybe even like that. A move like this would work. This thing's starting to look really dangerous. If he moves like this, then yeah, it's not completely convinced, but wait, actually, we go back a couple moves. Maybe you can even do this and fork the lance and the rook. So something like that. Yeah, that looks stronger. Okay. Okay, so you have to be careful about this. So when you're looking at the structure, what's white's threat? It's 2-4 pawn, right? So how should you face that? 8-4 pawn. He's gonna take it though. If you do that, he can. Let's see. He would probably just take it with the bishop. Could he take it with the? Could he just take it with the rook too? Like that. Right. And if here, then just that. And then you threaten to kill the bishop with 6-1 gold. So yeah. Okay, here's a useful proverb. You know, I know I told you before that a lot of the proverbs are useless. In this case, it's definitely the thing to do. It's drop where the opponent wants to drop. So opponent wants to, yeah, it's actually, yeah, good. So you prevent it. Yeah, I guess I could also 7-7 bishops also a thought, but huh. Yeah, 8-6 pawn it's solid. I guess this might be some attack and defense, but yeah, it might be possible. Okay. Okay, and then the other thing was here. This is a very, very passive move, and I think it's a reflex move from your side. But you notice at this point, we go back a couple moves, okay? You just exchange pawns on the 7th file. Notice right now that you have a pawn in hand. So how is there a way to make use of it? Seven two pawn. Like that. Uh, What happens if he pushes here? And he does something like this. You notice you have no pawns in hand, so it's kind of scary. If you do something like this, Maybe you can just do that, and then, yeah. Okay, so at this position, he just gave you a pawn in hand. So you don't want to immediately defend. A move like this it's just so submissive. I mean, it's just groveling. It's disgusting. So as much as possible, you never want to do stuff like that. So you think positively. And that means looking at your own threats. So with that in mind, maybe you can find this move. Okay. If he takes the pawn like this, and you do this. Okay. And then now you notice that the knight's being used. See? So if pawn takes and knight takes, see, the king is completely ripped open. Yeah. So that's completely disastrous. So maybe he'll do something like this. And you drop the pawn here. He moves back. And then you take like this. So you made a gain in front of his king. Yeah. He's going to be in a lot of trouble. I guess the other thing you can do is this. And maybe let's just see what the engine says. But I'm pretty sure this is going to be winning for. Yeah. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, this is actually pretty simple. Okay, let's suspend that. So all thanks to the pawn in hand. Okay. So let me show you something else. It's kind of similar theme. Okay, let's save that first. Okay, this is a Hayakuri opening. Okay. And now you can do a move like this, or or like this. Okay, let's flip the board around. What should white do here? Notice a similar situation to before, right? White just got a pawn in hand. Yes. You do not want to do this. That'd be the disgusting groveling move. You want to push here, making use of the pawn in hand. Now, if he takes with the silver, what's the move? What's the next move? Yeah, fork on the rook and the lance. Okay, so then, he can't allow him to just take the pawn and break through on the 8th file, so he's going to have to take like this. And then what's a follow-up after that? Yes. Okay. So now if takes, you notice the silver and the knight are being forked by the rook. Okay, so he can't take the pawn. So most likely what he's going to do is just exchange the silvers this way. Okay, and now takes this. And you notice that that he made a gain on the 8th file. The king, black's king can't go to 8-8 anymore. So it represents a defect in black's position. So even though black managed to trade off the pawn in front of his rook and his attacking silver, white ends up having play of his own. So when you're playing games, you have to make sure that the opponent doesn't get advantages for nothing. You always have to have your own counterplay. So in this case, the counterplay is going to be against the bad position of the opponent's king. So this is a very double-edged position. Okay. So let me we can load one more thing. Yeah, we should probably look at this one. Okay, to load. Okay, good. This is from a professional game, Ijima versus Kutsu. It happened, let's see, 75th Jun-E Sen B1 class. We're looking at this from White's point of view. So Kutsu. I didn't want to talk too much about the opening, but I wanted to show a middle game theme. Okay, you notice this time it's White that's playing a bogin setup. Okay, let's just see what happens. Drops. Okay, so he's doing the kind of trying to counterattack against a rook. This time it doesn't work though. Okay, the simple idea is like, I don't know, maybe maybe you can do something like this. Another idea might be like this. Because if here, then he drops the knight like that. Okay. So the pawn shouldn't be taken. And so he drops a pawn here. And then he keeps counterattacking against the attacking pieces. Okay. Okay, so what's a threat? Yep. So he has to take the pawn this way. And then now you notice that the bishop is kind of trapped. So push here. Pawn here. And rook back. And then knight take. What takes the knight? Takes that. So he lost the. He ended up losing his bishop, but you notice that what are Black's threats? Three knight. Yep. What else? 5-3 knight. Yep. And then one more is 2-3 pawn promote. Yeah, good. So you drop where the opponent. Well, excuse me. He does this one. And then now what should White do? Here, there's another useful proverb. You know, don't run away from a fork. Now, why would a proverb like that work? Do you know? Yes. The reason why the proverb works is that you notice he can only take one piece at a time. So a lot of times what the forked side will do is end up sacrificing material in order to gain time. Okay, so he drops here, and he's just going to calmly move the rook back, retaining his threat on the rook and the gold. So what next? Make sure you don't panic and do something like this. That would be really, really sad. And it would be playing into black's hands. So what should he do? So temporarily whites up material. And there's a very important concept in defensive theory here. Yeah. Okay, well, he continues his attack on the rook, like here. Okay, and then he pulls the rook back. If instead he moves the rook here, he can take like this, just sacrificing the rook, and then he takes here. Now you notice when he took the rook, this promoted knight is moving away from the king, from white's king. So that means that it's going to take a lot of time for this piece to get back into play. So it represents a big gain of time a big loss of time by black. So you can continue counterattacking like that. See, forking the rook and the silver. So instead of defending, you counterattack. That's what you should get from this. Okay, so the rook has to move back. And now he attacks the rook again. Okay, so here, wow. Okay, what are black's threats? Okay, he also threatens to take the bishop on 3-7. So he has 3 threats. Yeah. So he can't move 3 times in a row. So he's gonna have to decide what he's gonna drop. So what do you think? What do you think White did here? here he has to save the relevant piece, which is the rook. If, let's say he tries to save the bishop instead, he just grabs here. And there's not enough threats now. Yeah, he takes here. Okay. So he just gave return material. So the defensive theory that I was talking about is when you're being attacked, and a lot of times the attacker will end up sacrificing material, so you'll end up being up material, at least temporarily. And then, so one of the defensive themes is to return the extra material in order to get some type of compensation. So in this case, he's returning the material in order to gain time to save his rook. Okay. And the gold. So he's no longer, so now white's the one down material. But you notice that he's ahead in the attacking race. Just because you're up material doesn't mean that you have to hang on to it at all costs. If you can convert it for some other advantage or to lessen pressure, you should always consider doing so. Okay, so rook promotes with tempo. And you notice that the opponent's rook isn't in a very good position. Yeah, so white's piece activity is a lot better than black's. Okay, and now here. And then what's white's move? He needs to save the lance, right? Opponent threatens 2-3 pawn promote. So how do you deal with the threat? You keep attacking the rook like this. Okay, so if the rook runs to 3-7, then the gold falls. So he has to take it. And then the rook comes in just in time, and then he can take the... if he runs here, then this. Okay. Promote. And rook comes into the camp. Just calmly defend. Okay, so opponent threatens 5-3 token next, but white's threats are bigger. So you have to ask yourself, is a threat worth defending against? If your own threats are worth more than the opponent's, then you don't have to defend it. So he just grabs a goal. Okay, and now the head of the knight is weak, so there. Okay, allowing him to take on 7-6 would be a serious. Yeah, that'd be really bad because of the 8-8 gold mate threat. So he has to defend here and drops the rook here. And then black resigned. So if he grabs a gold like that, then it's check. King up, takes. If here is white's king in Tsumero? No, yeah, not in Tsumero. So you can keep attacking. Yeah, that. So after here, if he wants a nebari, he can run the king up like this. And then now he just grabs the token and eliminates a threat. So white's completely winning if he does that. Grabs here. And if the king takes, then there's going to be this and there, threatening 8-6 dragon. Oh, this is going to win. Notice now the threat is 8-6 silver. Yeah, actually here, I think the threat is just to play 6-3 silver. Yeah. But anyway, okay. And if this instead, check. And now he can just calmly defend like here. And just check. And it's going to win now. Okay. Alright, let's go back. We looked at what seemed to be kind of a wide variety of things today. We looked at openings, we analyzed your game, and then we looked at this professional game. Do you see like an underlying theme to what we're doing? Yeah, one is not being passive. The other is we're looking at a lot of threats. And the other thing is you notice in all of these games there are attacks against opponents' attacking pieces. Yeah. Okay, that's always going to be a source of counterplay. All right. So did you have any questions? No immediate question. Okay, good. Yeah, I know it seemed like there was a lot to go over, but and I don't expect you to be able to play play having learned all of these themes really and having learned it really well immediately, but these things take time. The main point behind all of this is to give you I guess certain recurring patterns. So if you can incorporate some of them into your games, then you'll have made some gains. So, of course, these things take time, and also, unfortunately, even for myself, a lot of times things have to happen over and over again in order to learn them. So, hopefully, some of these common patterns will become more familiar to you, and it'll become easier to find next time. Okay. So, thank you everyone for joining me today. If you like this stream and learn from it, please consider supporting it by donating. You can click on the blue Pac-Man ghost. That'd be really appreciated. Uh, uh, if you want to reach me for questions or comments, you can email me at alexi2539@gmail.com. I'm also available for private lessons. Thanks again. Take care. Bye.